Hey guys, my name is Kelly, and I have complex regional pain syndrome, and I also have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. And September is Pain Awareness Month, Chronic Pain Awareness Month. And so this entire month, um, I have been creating videos on chronic pain education and tools that help people that are in pain, like actual tangible tools that work. I am also a licensed clinical social worker and a therapist, and I have my own private practice, which is solely online, mostly because I can't get to an office anymore, but also because I love working in my yoga pants. So I work with people with chronic pain, and I have learned so much in the last 8 or 9 years since I myself have been suffering that I really felt called to move my niche in my practice to work with chronic pain. But what this has allowed me to do is also kind of offer something to the CRPS community as well. So today I wanted to talk about this feeling that we're never enough. Like we feel like we're just never enough. And it's not just people that are in chronic pain, it's everybody. It's everybody that I see for therapy, not just chronic pain. But I think that when you have the extra layer of having chronic pain, it just adds an invisible illness and all of that. It adds like just a lot of really difficult emotions and takes a toll on us. And so I read this really great article today. If you're interested in reading it, I can send you the link. Um, but it's about the reason why we can't shake that feeling that we're not enough. And so, what they talk about is our ancient brains when we were running around with, as cavemen and we were hunter and gatherers. Our survival depended on fitting in with others in our tribe, in our community, because as humans, we could survive pretty well if we have a community around us. If we're alone, we're much more likely to be attacked by a predator, having an injury, having another like enemy tribe coming and get us. So our survival really depended on creating this community around us. And so our brains are hardwired to fit in and to be like others. Um, and so these ancient brains that we have in modern times are constantly scanning what everybody else is doing. And while we're doing that, we're measuring our worth against other people. And so, as you can see, in ancient time, this was pretty helpful. This is survival. Today, not so much. It's not helpful, really at all, because the difference is now we're not just surrounded by 20 or 30 people or a tribe of people, but we're online and we're on social media and we're seeing people across the world, like thousands and thousands and thousands of people, and we're measuring our worth against people that like aren't even in our same situation, wouldn't even be in our tribe, are in different walks of their life, have different things going on in their body, and yet we're using that as a staple to kind of determine like what's good enough. And so we walk away from that feeling like I'm not enough. And we walk away feeling like our worth is conditional and that it needs to be constantly earned. And when we come from that perspective of our worth has to be earned, that's going to be driven by shame. And anything driven by shame is not great. If you haven't checked out Brene Brown and her videos, her TED Talks on shame and vulnerability, check those out because those are phenomenal. But shame is not a good emotion. It's not a helpful emotion. So I don't want anybody to be operating from a place of shame. So we're feeling like when we're in this place, we're feeling like we need to do more, act more, buy more, achieve more. What does Will Smith say? Something about we buy things we can't afford, that we don't need, to impress people that don't care, or something like that. But like that's what we do. And it's really sad. It really is sad. Um, so we, as people with chronic pain, there's also this feeling of comparing yourself to maybe what you were before you got sick, and having that be your benchmark, which is again not helpful. That's no longer who you are, but that doesn't mean that your worth has decreased. So the reason why I wanted to also make a video separate from what I'm doing in my therapy practice is because I think that specifically with CRPS, because of the high levels of pain that we are in, I mean, I'm doing this video from my bed right now, to be honest, because I don't have to walk across the house to my office for another 45 minutes, and so I'm going to enjoy this time in this bed, because living in my body on a daily basis is exhausting. It's so exhausting, and the pain levels are excruciating. Some days are better than others. 2 days ago, I had a phenomenal day where I only took one pain medication, and I was like, wow, this hasn't happened in years. But when you're living in that high level of pain, I think that your mindset can shift pretty easily to going into this slump of feeling like crap emotionally, because physically you don't feel good. And so if you're in a relationship and you're feeling like not good enough in your relationship because you can't do certain things, or you're feeling like you're not a good enough mother or a good enough friend or a good enough, employee, whatever the thing may be, your chronic pain really can exacerbate those feelings and kind of support it. If we go deep into the dark rabbit hole of the emotional whirlwind of chronic pain, yeah, we can convince ourselves because my feet are on fire and my mobility is limited and I can no longer go into an office and blah, 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 that I'm not as good as other people and that other people are better than I am. But that's not true. And that's how warped I think that pain can kind of stand up and try to convince us that we're not. And it's important to understand, one, why your brain is doing that, because it's ancient and it's trying to keep you alive, but two, that it's not helpful, and that you are already enough, you are doing enough, you're being enough, you have enough, all of the enough you are. There is already so many layers of difficulty when you have CRPS that feeling like you're not enough, we just don't need it. We got enough. I'm full. I'm good. I don't need anything else to worry about, because the depression, the anxiety, the, you know, just everything, the loss, the grief, all of it is so much to deal with, that if we can at least be aware of our mind's tendency to lean towards comparing ourselves to others, then we can be like, oh yeah, wait, that's my mind doing that thing that's not helpful for me. Let me be mindful and just shift my focus. And maybe that helps change your approach for the day. Because the mind, in this article that I read, it talks about the mind being like an old, outdated, like piece of software. So think about, I don't know, people that are my age, think about Oregon Trail. People that are younger than me, think about, I don't know, like the first iPhone or the BlackBerry or whatever. Like all of that stuff is so outdated now, and it wouldn't work in today's world. Like I think at some point iPhones stop updating because the software can no longer support or the hardware can no longer support software. However that goes, I don't know. I'm just making stuff up. But um, just knowing, like having that view of like, yeah, this is outdated and I need to shift my thinking and I need to retrain my brain that these are the things that I do for survival. And whatever those things are. For me, it's taking care of myself. It's knowing what I need. It's knowing how to ask for what I need. It's having a good medical team. It's being mindful of my body and practicing mindfulness and meditation to calm my nervous system. It can be anything that works for you. It could be laying with your dog on the couch. But we have to rewire our brain to think in ways that are going to support us. And that's what I kind of do, not what I kind of do, that's what I do in my therapy practice, is helping people to realize that. And yeah, just for, I mean, gosh, especially CRPS, like it's too much. And I hate that people suffer more when you're already suffering so much. And so I'm a big believer of like, let's limit and reduce the amount of suffering that we're having and what can we control and what can we not control. And let's focus on the things that we can control. So, the one of the questions in the end of this article that they asked that I thought was really good was a question of what would you do differently with your time and your energy if you weren't out there hustling for self-worth through people pleasing, approval seeking, and overachieving? Or in our case, what would we do differently if we weren't scrolling through social media and beating ourselves up because maybe our CRPS doesn't look like somebody, or maybe I posted a video of riding my bike and you feel like crap because you can't ride your bike. Like, that's not fair. That's not fair to you. Um, I think that we need to just feel this sense of security in who we are and believe in ourselves. We're going through something really difficult that a lot of people will never ever get. And building community around you is certainly important, but your community does not determine your worth either. So just remember that when you're comparing yourself to others and thinking, my CRPS doesn't look like that, I'm not able to do that, I'm worthless. Catch your brain when it starts to slip that way, because it is a fast rabbit hole that you can just drop into. And that's a deep tunnel that it's hard to climb out of. And I know from personal experience, I mean, this happens to me too, and I teach people how to not do this, but it's going to ruin my whole day or a half a day. Like if I slip into that, forget it. I'm not doing anything. I'm going to sit there and feel sorry for myself and beat myself up with shame and guilt. And those are the worst pain days as well. I don't need that. You don't need that. So I just wanted to share that because it's important to me, and I think that just believing in yourself and knowing your own worth is incredibly helpful to also managing this condition to the best of your ability. So remember, you are enough. I hope that everybody is having a good day. If you're not, hang in there. Bad days are temporary, and I hope that you start feeling better soon. Take care.